OWC just introduced a new version of their NAS, Jellyfish Studio, and we were lucky enough to talk to Larry O'Connor, the founder and owner of the company.
You're watching CineD, supported by B&H and CVP.
Hi everybody, this is Nino from CineD here at IBC 2024. I'm very proud to be here at the OWC booth, Otherworld Computing, with Larry, the founder and owner of OWC. How are you?
Really good. Yourself?
Also good. Actually, I've known your brand for many years. We've never met before. Just, give us a 2-sentence history of how did you get started with making, storage solutions for the industry?
We were at the time we were selling other people's storage, and ultimately customers had, let's just say complaints. And we looked at these solutions and the inconsistencies, why one batch would be great, another wouldn't, and ultimately listened to our customers. What were their needs? How could we provide this? So that we had done storage, since we first started, back in the SCSI days, but we had a little bit of a lag getting in the FireWire. But ultimately it came down to, and this is, I'm dating myself a little bit here perhaps, both with SCSI and FireWire. But the long story short was listening to our customers and providing a consistent solution, and not just a consistent solution, where if you bought it today and it performed, it'd work for your application the next time you bought it a month from now, but also advertising real honest specs. Not just touting out the interface specs, but showing what that performance was going to be and what that meant to your workflow. Because even today, there's so many benchmarks and so many, I really say flashes in the pan, and then you plug it in and go to use it, and you see the flash in the pan, and then you find out, well, it is a flash in the pan because it goes from here, and then the performance drops to there, and it's not really good. And professionals see it and understand it right away because it affects their ability to even get anything done. But it's something we also really kind of promote out to prosumers and consumers because they don't necessarily even know what they're missing. There's so many people that just think this is normal, when they have a product that isn't meeting those expectations. And from day one, OWC has been a company that we work to educate people and work to provide accessibility to better technology so that even if you're an amateur today, you have a path to actually, having the right technology so that you've got that creative capability, you've got that drive, the technology is not holding you back. So cool. Customer is, why we're here, what got us here, and why we went from at the time, upgrades and relatively simple storage to, really complex.
So you came from other people's storage to Otherworld Computing, essentially.
Yeah, in a sense, absolutely. It's, again, if there's already a great product in the market, then we're not needed there. And ultimately, our customers, needed something better than we were able to offer from, at that time, the available channels. So we've always had a drive. This company started because we saw customer needs that weren't being fulfilled, and we had the opportunity to do, better for those customers. And when storage went into a whole new era, it was a place that we pivoted back to in a really strong way. And again, this is just common sense stuff. Even with docks, the docks was just kind of funny. We build a lot of these solutions because we see the needs that we have. The different ports, the performance we expect. And what we have found and can still find today, what we see as common sense, just the right way to build something, isn't common in terms of how most of the product that we compete with, how those products are designed and conceived. They don't have that kind of testing. They want to brag about how many ports they have. They want to brag about a peak speed as opposed to what does it do in the real world. And it's like a car. If it works great on a test track, that's wonderful. But if you're out on an actual real road with real road conditions, that's where you have to be able to drive that vehicle. And we build things. We use these solutions ourselves, and we build these solutions so that they are really easy for our customers to use as well. Technology should work for you. You should not have to work to use your technology.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but my feeling is also, working in this industry for a while, 20, 30 years, I feel like it has kind of moved from the bottleneck being the drive, or actually the connector, to being more like what is supplying the drive for SSD. Because now we have really fast Thunderbolt 5, whatever, and it basically can satisfy almost all the needs, I guess. But now we really need the drives that are able to deliver that data, right?
Absolutely. It's nice to have that flash in the pan, which shows what the interface can do. But if the drive you're connecting can't do it, then what good is that interface? And that's what I say. I mean, a lot of folks, they do not realize when they're connecting a drive up, and like this is even just for backup. I mean, I'll bring it right down. I mean, there's a friend of mine talking about, gosh, I just got one of your drives. My wife, talked about it, and I brought it in, and it used to take hours, and now it's minutes. I said, well, what were you using? And I said, it's because, that number they advertise here is not a real number. There's a media guy that covered. He talked about Ninja, said, and these are big brand competitors. OWC takes 2 minutes. This product takes 11 minutes for a full ingest. This is just a small ingest. Now you multiply that out over, that was for a few hundred gigabytes. Move that up to a terabyte or 2 terabytes. Now you're still talking literally minutes versus hours. People don't necessarily know that. They don't know the translation between what these advertised speeds are and what the real world is. And we really build these products for people that have to depend on performance and reliability, and understand when something's not hitting speed, which is where our following is. But there's so many other customers out there, so many other people that they listen to folks like you. They learn to say, oh, it's not me or my computer, or this is just where technology is. I need to get the right solution.
Although there is an education gap as well, I feel sometimes, because I see people using super fast memory cards in cameras, and then they attach almost like a USB 2 reader and are surprised that it takes ages to copy. That's that kind of. So you need the right tools as well. Talking about the right tools, today we're talking about a new product that you guys brought out, the Jellyfish Studio. This is a network attached storage.
Correct. Jellyfish Studio is optimized for high performance video workflows, whether you're ingesting, editing, we have to share, create proxies. Actually lets you create web proxies on the fly, so you don't even necessarily download for remote viewing. All sorts of amazing, powerful features built into the solution that goes up to 160 terabytes. And on site, you can directly connect without a separate NIC, network switch, up to 14 users, which is really nice and convenient as well. So whether you're connecting through a local network or want to just have a box that even can be air gapped, supporting users, this really is the solution. Lots of bandwidth for editing, lots of capacity, and it's from a performance and a software layer. It's not just a NAS, with a basic OS. This says Jellyfish OS, JOS, which is custom built, completely designed, ground up for the purpose of video workflows. And I mean, that's where you can't drop a frame, you can't have things, glitchy. And if you, I guess, compare it to different solutions that you might consider on the market, and even building your own, because I know there's some guy, just build your own whatever. You have the choice with Jellyfish of something that's really plug and play. You don't need an IT support team. This is something that somebody in a production crew can very easily support, because it has a very easy to use interface. Again, it's designed for ease of use, so that, again, you're not working to make your technology work. You're working on actually what you're creating. So the solution, you can build your own and spend a lot of time tweaking it and kicking it. I mean, it'd be like a vehicle that every time you want to start it, you have to go and work on the engine. Or the Jellyfish is designed right out of the box, just to plug and play and go, and allow you to add users, assign, allocate space, whatever it may be, but in a very user-friendly, low IT support kind of way, so that, again, your focus is on what you're doing, not having to configure and not having to call an IT or a support team every time you do something.
That's very cool. So you can directly connect with 10 gig Ethernet.
Yes.
And because, I mean, I just can't compare, I'm not a storage expert. What we use at our headquarters is basically a bunch of NASs from a different manufacturer that are connected, that are connected through Ethernet. But you basically, you never get the full speed if you connect from the computers around the office. So basically what everybody does is you download the footage you need, then edit locally, and then you push it back, which is annoying, essentially, because you need more storage, right? You need more local storage. So this is really made to work from the NAS directly, right?
Yes, the Jellyfish is made so you can work directly from the NAS, but it also supports that kind of remote checkout. I mean, literally, you can have somebody on the other side of the world download, check it out, so that file's locked. I mean, you've got it. I mean, it's secure for that edit, and then push it back up. So you can also do that with Jellyfish, and Jellyfish is designed intentionally for that. But locally on site, whether it's the Studio or the Nomad, which is you literally can fit it in a plane overhead. It comes with a case to carry on the plane. So anywhere in the world, I mean, there are production. In the U.S., there's a particular production crew with Cool Collaborative that they have to turn over a television show in 48 hours from shoot, and it's a race. It's the great race. It's a bicycle series. It's pretty intense, but these are the kind of solutions that in the field make it possible to do things that a few years ago, they're unimaginable. Last year they had a week to do it. This year they're still 48 hours, and they turned the jellyfish because jellyfish made it happen. And then for a larger setup like yourself, especially if you don't need to have you don't need a studio desktop or the Nomad portable. Our R24 and our XT, which are rack-based solutions, this goes up to 160 terabytes. The jellyfish from there scales the system to go into the petabytes, and literally, actually in Norway, a jellyfish system powers an entire television station, actually the largest television station in the country. So this is, we go from direct attach to NAS, and way upscale in terms of what our solutions do. So you're starting today as a single user, as a one-man or one-woman production team. We literally have the solutions for you to go from one to hundreds.
Very cool. What kind of drives are you using in these?
Primarily Toshiba on the hard drive side, and then we have our own NVMe instead SSDs for the solid state side. We've been manufacturing solid state drives since 2010, and when I say manufacturing, that's design and firmware for a very long time.
Awesome. What are we talking about price range? Like, where do these products start, the jellyfish, and what's the range?
Sure, jellyfish starts at roughly $10,000 and can go up to, literally goes into the millions for the very high capacity systems. And then of course our direct attach, if I can talk about our direct attach, things like our Envoy Ultra, which are coming out, start in the low hundreds and go up from there. But
cool.
One thing that I will say about all of our solutions, they are priced, very competitively. We haven't done a big, how much can we squeeze from, this segment to the other segment. What's fair and what's right, and what gives people accessibility to really quality hardware that's going to perform.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. And I guess they are available now?
They are shipping now, yes, sir. All these, everything other than the Envoy Ultra Thunderbolt 5 is available shipping that's being shown at the show today.
Great. Anything I forgot?
We could talk about.
I'm not a storage expert. I could talk about how many ports does it have, and but.
There's one thing I like to put out there. And this is more on the direct attach side. This is from a conversation earlier. There's a lot of misgivings about software RAID and software RAID in general in terms of what it does for performance and the overhead on the system. Software RAID in particular, our technology, which is actually has been around for almost 3 decades. It started in the 90s. It's evolved a long way since then. It does not use GPU. I know I've heard from one person that some of these software RAID utilities are using, hit the GPU really hard. There is no GPU load. It's a driver level, engagement. So it's not an application that's running on the system. The overhead in the processor, and that's assuming you can even use all the cores, everything's at 100%, is less than 1% of what a system is providing. So it is a non-impact to your operation. But the benefit of software RAID, you have a hardware RAID, you have several different negatives. First negative is they typically rely on smart to tell you when a drive's going to go, if a drive is failing. We do we do a different kind of monitoring. We do use smart parameters, but way before smart tells you that a drive is at risk, we're telling you that drive may have 2 or 3 or 6 months. We're recommending a replacement. And that gets flashed to you every time the system's restarted or once a day until that drive is taken out. The second thing I kind of tie to that, when a drive fails in a hardware RAID, you may have an alarm that goes off that a lot of people silence. And then another drive eventually, maybe it's just a year or 2 later, fails, and then you're in trouble. The software monitor doesn't let you forget that there's a drive to replace. And when you need to do a rebuild, rather than have to put your data into the dark side of the moon and wait, sometimes, days and sometimes a week or longer on the large arrays, software RAID, your drive never goes away. It's balancing it. It still allows you to fully mount the array, read. You can continue writing. Obviously, you're at that point aware that you're down a drive as a rebuild, but it will prioritize what you're doing, so that it's rebuilding and you're also able to access. But it's important, I think, even just to access the read side, because it's pretty nerve-wracking, I think, for a lot of folks that, even if it's a planned replacement, knowing that, you're literally at the dark side of the moon, or you're...
It's also, I don't know, like statistically, at least what I've heard is that is when most of the other drives fail, because there's so much strain on the rest of the drives, on the rebuild process, right?
It shouldn't be, but
it shouldn't be, but I've heard that.
I don't know that it's really an issue of other drives failing. And again, if you
usually, I think if one drive fails, if it's a system that you bought, like all the drives will have the same age, right? So the likelihood of others failing is probably also high because they are the same age as the one that just failed.
You do have a probability increase, and the other aspect would be because these solutions use smart, when smart tells you that a drive is going, or, well, usually other things you already are wondering what's wrong because other bad things are happening, even before smart. Smart was designed by the hard drive manufacturers. I mean, it literally waits until the last second, relatively speaking, to tell you that the drive has got trouble. Now, in a couple examples we've seen in single drive solutions, even in PCs and Macs, the computer's crashing, blue screening, having problems, and then a month later, Smart says, oh yeah, this drive has got trouble. We tell you way before Smart, but before those Smart parameters would indicate if we see different behaviors in the drive as well as Smart indications.
It's funny, you would think that hardware manufacturers would have an interest in selling you a drive earlier, so.
But that's not what they're looking at. They're looking at the warranty. Even one of our, I guess we say, friends in the industry that have compete with asked us, why would you enable technology that may tell a customer 6 months, might be a year before that drive would actually bite the dust, and by then it might not be under warranty anymore. It's like our customers' data is what is critical to us, not avoiding a warranty. I mean, if there's a drive that's going to fail, we want to take care of that drive for our customer.
Makes sense. Never saw it from that perspective. I also wasn't aware that the soft rate works differently in that way.
Yeah, soft rate is there to monitor the drive and give you early warning, because again, that's our priority is your data, not how long can we push the drive. We want to tell you something is at risk before you start to wonder what's going wrong in your system.
It's funny because I've been talking about this with people who are working in the storage industry before, but I always feel like there's this education gap. Everybody just expects storage to work, and it's only becoming an issue when it's not working. But there is definitely this knowledge gap, and I see it when you're talking to me, you're explaining me things that I was half aware of. But I think that's true for a lot of shooters and also editors and people working in production and post-production out there. I think there needs to be almost like better education around those things so you can plan better for when things are not working the way they should.
Well, the problem is, in most cases, because it's an instant failure, unfortunately, the way certainly a lot of the parameters are that are going to tell you, I mean, it's a critical state. At that point, it's fight or flight. You're going to get that. You're going to do what you got to do to get yourself back online, and perhaps, I mean, the memory is short. I know the bad experiences like that, when you're under pressure, I mean, they get filed, I think, differently than, things are more in a normal flow. But there's certainly education that be done in soft rate. Again, our priority is our customers' data, not trying to, not using technology that gives the best probability of it being outside of warranty. But I really want to say about soft rate, very, very important is that soft rate, because it's driver-based, because it's highly efficient, and it's even compared to hardware rate for speed. Hardware rates cliff because they use a cache on board in the controller that has other limitations. I mean, unless you spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a RAID, I mean, you're going to see, from eight drives perhaps, 12 to 1300 megs a second. You see faster, but then the cache runs out and it cliffs. With soft RAID, with 8 drives across Thunderbolt, you're sustaining 1700 megs a second in RAID 5 without a cliff. And the overhead on the system is, all practical purposes, is non-existent. So it's not slowing down your workflow. You have consistent high performance data, and you have drive monitoring that's, beyond certainly what Smart gives you. And you're also not tied to a hardware card that if something happens to that solution, that external, it gets damaged, whether it be lightning, drop, just gets, whatever it might be, has a glitch, that you have to go, my gosh, I got to find that got to find the right firmware, got to find the right controller. I have to have that or it's not going to work. Soft RAID, you can literally yank our drives from any one of our solutions, put it into another one of our solutions, put it into somebody else's solution that supports JBOD, put it into individual drive enclosures. Whatever you might have to do is something, if somebody drop-kicked the enclosure and the drives are in your hands, as soon as you put those drives on, the system comes up. And soft RAID, while we have the application itself to support soft RAID volumes, has no cost. And soft RAID also, the driver itself, you don't need to install software to use it on a Mac as well. On a PC you do, and that's the other neat thing. Soft RAID is the only software-based solution, unless you go from a Mac and a PC to Mac with the same solution. So you can be editing on a Mac, move that volume over to a PC, continue editing, offload share, move back. we have interoperability between the platforms. So a lot has been done with this technology to give it, the flexibility that folks want. But performance, you get better performance, without that hit. And again, the number one thing I hear about software rate in general is that, well, it's sucking down the GPU or it's hurting the processor. There are crappy ways, and I shouldn't say crappy, there are less efficient ways to do software rate on a system, especially application-based, where it's an application running. There's no application running, to drive software rate. I mean, it works at a very low level, interface within the operating system. So
there's a lot of misconceptions around the concept, whereas you think it's a better technological solution than a hardware rate.
Absolutely, positively. I mean, again, short of a rack server solution like the R24, which does not, these don't use software aid. At a desktop level, using Thunderbolt and those performance levels, there's nothing that compares. I mean, you're going to spend 5-10x if you want to have a true RAID solution with that's a specialized hardware solution that's going to beat what software gives you in this application.
Interesting. Awesome. Thank you, Larry.
Pleasure.
Have a great rest of the show, and thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned to CineD for a lot more from IBC 2024, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks.